Good evening and welcome to the Joust. Good evening, Jousters. My name is Nagy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil. Liam, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful, Nagy. I'm very well. Excited. You know, I'm just good.
You just don't see many of those things. Are you resting a bit of maybe a sore noggin?
I abused alcohol last night, Nagy. Well, not last night, all of yesterday.
All of yesterday.
The whole day.
It was the day, you know, some people spend the day with the Lord, you spent the day with the bottle.
Yes.
Several of them.
The Lord is my bottle. No, the bottle is my Lord.
Yeah, I did a little bit the same on Saturday night, because Saturday night was quite a reason to be celebrating, because we got over the Broncos at home. First time in 8 years, I heard.
Isn't it wonderful? What a way to end the streak. What a way to return Marathon to the fortress that it once was and hasn't been for a while. I think we're getting back to those days, Nagy.
Yeah, no, and I was surprised that I hadn't really heard, but I think it seems about right. I can't remember ever beating Brisbane, and I tell you, it was good beating the Brisbane players, but it was also nice just seeing Brisbane supporters deflated.
I got there at halftime and there was already Brisbane supporters streaming out.
Well, it's a long drive back to Brisbane, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
But no, it was excellent to see. Like another, I tell you what, I don't want to ever see a 5-point lead coming with about 10 minutes to go again. Oh, that was just shocking.
Wasn't it stressful?
It was, yeah, that stressful was one way, but it took some years of the back end of my life, I think.
Which you're already perilously close to, anyway.
Yeah, and I'd left the people that I was initially with, and then I sort of immersed myself trying to get closer to the field as on the drinking hill. And I tell you what, yeah, and then when it ticked down and we actually won, it sort of still took a few minutes for it to really sink in. But that might have been the alcohol affecting my brain.
Yes, may well have been. You were a few seconds behind. You were on delay.
But yeah, 3 wins this season already, and that's pretty incredible considering we only got 5 last season throughout the entirety of it.
We're already 60% towards the way of more wins than last year.
Yeah, that's right. But Liam, I have to ask you, what went right for you?
Oh, so much, Nagy. A lot went right. Look, as always, our stats that we'll be mentioning throughout the afternoon are brought to you by Josh Spiegelman.
Hebrew Hammer.
That's it, the show's very own, best friend of the show, Josh Spiegelman. Our forward pack. Now, they really stood up. They've kind of, last few weeks, been, I don't know, a bit off. Weren't quite having the impact that they had in the opening rounds. But Saturday night, they really stood up. They really took control. They took the game to Brisbane. We had 4 forwards. Ran for over 100 metres. Again, we've discussed how that's the magic number, including the Ox, Jacob Lillyman, you know, clearly listens to the show, and he had a great game. He really picked it up, and he just did what he was brought to the club to do. You know, he put in these hard shifts, had a lot of hard runs, ran some good yards, and yeah, the forward pack really stood up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have to say that's correct. I totally agree, especially with Lillyman. He played a similar amount of time as he did the previous week when he only managed, you know, barely anything meters-wise, but this one I think was over 100, 110, 120. That's what I want to see from
119.
119. They felt them too. He used that big frame of his right in the middle of the park, just the way we wanted to see. So that was good to see, a good lift from him. But I have to agree with the forwards. There's just, it was already, like, it's been spoken about so much already that it almost seems like we're wasting valuable time, but talking about it. But the defence, the urgency in the defence, the line speed, everything looked good. The one-on-one tackles were all fantastic.
Wasn't it brilliant? Like, especially defence on our own line. The Broncos forced 6 dropouts to our 1 that we forced. So we had to do a lot more defending in our red zone on the line. And besides the 2 tries, which kind of came from a bit of broken play and then just a poor defensive read, our defence really stood up. We only had 32 missed tackles to their 42, which is great. That's not a stat we usually win. I mean, it's still not ideal, missing 30 tackles.
No, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot.
It is a lot. It's high, isn't it? But it was less than them, which is, again, it's not a stat we tend to win.
We just want to get less numbers on those stats and more numbers where the points are put together.
That's it, and that's been the problem the last few years. We couldn't do that.
We couldn't get either.
We had the mix wrong.
Yeah,
we were all mixed up.
That's all we had to do. Is just swap the numbers.
That's it.
Brownie, all your negative stats you seem to be winning, and all the positive ones you seem to be losing. And he went, You're right there, Nagy.
Yeah,
He's-
got us, boys.
Yeah, swapped it.
He did, and he swapped it, and it worked.
And then he made a disparaging comment about me and about my personal life. That's all he does now.
He's burning us about our sexual proclivities.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good on him for it.
yes.
No, we'll touch more on that later. No, Liam.
Will. But there was more that went right, Nagy.
Oh,
Don't think
okay.
I'm done yet.
Hit me with
I
it.
thought Mitchell Pearce at 7, he managed the game beautifully, Nagy. You know, he kicked for, I think, 300 and something meters, but he was finding space with the kicks. Now, we know the Broncos' back three especially are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Except Darius. He's having a shit of a year. He's been terrible.
Isn't it great to see?
And he couldn't even get to Pearce's kicks, which I think is showing it. He just sucks now. But yeah, Pearce was kicking well. He was finding space. There was a few deft touch finders to give the boys a bit of a rest, slow the clock down. I think he's really starting to show, you know, how much of a difference a good game manager has on a team. He's really leading the team around the park well.
Yeah, no, I think he's really bringing that sort of club form that we'd hoped he would into the game. I don't think he's had a bad game yet, and you know he seems like someone that's really settled in that side. He's taken ownership over it, and you sort of have to remind yourself that he's only been in the side, like he's only played, including the trials, 7 games. So it's amazing to see that he's taken this so quickly and he's putting these dominant performances in, which is nice.
And it's great to see him out on the field. You know, he's always talking. Like the missus at one point said, "Oh, why is that man yelling?" I said, "Oh, darling, he's telling the players what they need to know. He's really leading the team." And you watch him in the post-match press conference. He's happy, he's smiling. Someone said a very good comment today that they feel like Mitchell Pearce finally feels wanted at this club.
Yeah.
Like he had a strange relationship with the Roosters fans. I don't know. They never really seemed overly supportive. But to see him in the press conferences and the way he speaks about the club and the way he speaks about the team, I feel like he's being given a lot of confidence by the support that he may not have been getting over the years in Bondi.
I think it was a change he needed. I know it's been spoken about before, but especially with he was at the Roosters for so long that I think it just became a bit of a thing. When the game didn't go their way, it was Mitchell Pearce's fault. And the fact that he was there for 10 years, it could just be an easy, like, Mitchell Pearce. And it's always those blokes that sort of don't really follow football anymore, and they're just sort of sitting at the pub or at the thing, and they're just sort of glancing up, and then as soon as their team, whoever they're going for, it seems like they're not getting the rub of the ground. They go, they're all useless. You know, they just write them off immediately, and they only know 1 or 2 players' names. And then, but then they can never pronounce the rest of them. They're
The casual fan.
The fair weather fans.
Yeah, that term that I so famously made up, of course.
Yeah.
But, geez, wasn't Rossi good at centre as well? Because, last week with Tau's injury, we discussed may cause some problems because we seemed a bit weak on the fringes, but hey, Rossi was outstanding.
Urgency in after those kicks that found ground. I tell you what, Rossi was there.
Kick chase was phenomenal.
It was there a lot. Putting a lot of pressure on a very good back three. So
and his defence was great too. 14 tackles he made with only 1 miss, and he was marking up against Jimmy the Jet, who he's a damn good centre. Rossi did a great job, and he and Sio really locked down that edge. I think that went a long way to easing the concerns we had about our centre problem long term.
Oh, what I really liked about those out of those 14 tackles, 4 of them were 1-on-1. And you just don't see that in this game anymore. Like you may have, back in the past where it was more legs tackles, but no, now it's with all the you got to get one in, but then another, and then they have a 1-on-1 tackle now. It's pretty big because it means you're the only one there.
Absolutely, and he really locked up that edge. And again, Brisbane had a lot of trouble getting around us this time, which in the past few weeks we found that teams have been, going around us easily. Didn't quite happen down that edge this time.
Liam, what went wrong for you that game?
Look, there's a few things though, Nagy. Now, we need to convert more scoring opportunities. Now, we did win. Yes, we defended our way to victory, I think. And we looked good in attack. There was just a number of times where we didn't get the points on the board. I think ideally in a game like that, you'd want to be scoring another 10 to 12 points to really get that lead unassailable. Broncos coming home with a wet sail last 10 minutes. The crowd was nervous, all 21,969 of us. So it's edge of our seat stuff because so often it's, gone wrong.
Gone sour.
Sour.
You're already thinking how you're going to get home to avoid the traffic.
Yeah, and boy, I didn't avoid the traffic. It was a debacle. But, I think we really need to put the foot on the throat.
Yeah.
Score more points, not let in those late points. It was not what I'd call a fadeaway. Like, we didn't fade out. Brisbane just turned on the coals, scored a few quick tries, but we defended well around that. But yeah, I still think we need to be scoring more points, especially with how potent we're looking in attack.
And I just on that, I think there was a few moments there with there was that beautiful touchback from Rossi to Brock Lamb to the inside ball to Chris Heinsohn. Beautiful play off the cuff. I love seeing that sort of stuff. I love going for it. And it was only Chris Heinsohn, the 72-year-old legs. Chris just couldn't quite get there. But there was talks that there was, I think, Guerra on his inside. But then again, if he made that pass and it dropped, everyone would have said, you just needed to run it, mate. Tuck and run. You're a prop.
It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
But I like those, really going for it. But also there was that one where the Pong threw that cutout. Like, it wasn't just the pass, but it was how quickly he got it from one hand to and fired it out.
It was incredible. It was like his hands, they weren't even a blur. You didn't see the motion. He caught the ball here, he passed the ball here, and no one knows how his hands got there so quickly. It was amazing.
No one knows.
It was gorgeous.
It was, and that obviously wasn't Ford. I don't think it was Ford. Not to dwell on it because we won, but that could have been those points scoring opportunities that we're talking about. And put 2 more tries on Brisbane, and it's us becoming a bit of a flogging.
Look, another thing that did worry me. Now, Anthony Milford.
Yes,
he was very dangerous in broken play. I think, although the defence was good, there were too many opportunities for a player like him with a staggered line or lazy marker work. And up against Melbourne next week, you have Cam Munster playing number 6. He's a similar style, very good footwork. He can break tackles. And Milf at a few times ran us ragged. Just lucky that he's fat and didn't score.
Yeah. His weight really saved us, didn't it? But no, it was he's been playing well against us since his Canberra days. There's a rule you see in stats how there's this player scored this many tries against this team. Over this many years. It's just players that play well on certain games in certain stadiums will have good games again and again because it's something about it's the confidence in them. And Milford has been tearing us up and making line breaks since 2014 in Canberra. The first time I can remember seeing him.
Now, Nagy, I will pull you up on something. The correct pluralization for stadium is actually stadia.
Thank you.
Not stadiums. Stadia.
Oh, thank you for that, Liam.
There we go.
Could have told me that after the podcast, but
no. I just live to fix these little things.
Full disclosure. Thank you very much.
But look, we shouldn't have let the Broncos back into the game as well.
Yeah.
Corey Oates' try on the wing was one that we've had a problem with, defending on the fringes.
Yeah.
Sione went in and SKD made the decision to go in. Bam, you have Corey Oates hitting on the outside from Darius Boyd, who was always going to throw that cutout pass.
He was. Now, Liam, I have to ask you, your hat's off for this week to a player that you thought did rather well.
You know who it is. It's coming.
Can we hear it? It's the Pong.
It's the Pong. Hats off to the Pong. Look, it seems easy because we're giving him the hats off almost every week. He's just been unbelievable. He's been in incredible form.
I was thinking about hats off this week, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, we have to give it, you'd give it to the Pong, but I thought we've been giving it every week. It's like we're favouring him or something, but it's like he's just having incredible games.
He is. I mean, he ran for 223 metres. Remarkable. Very effective metres as well. He had 3 line engagements. He had 5 tackle busts and a try assist. He's currently leading the NRL with 41 tackle busts. He's just proving to be a genuine whiz. And
chasing down Nicarima in the middle of the field. You know what I mean? He's just looking good.
How good was that?
He's looking all around very, very good now. He's got so many hats off this season already that I think we need to upgrade him. Maybe a pants off was suggested.
Pants off for the Pong.
Pants off for the Pong.
I like the pants off for the Pong.
Maybe we might have to tuck under the table a bit
more. We might have to. But you know what? It's making me feel really confident because we all recall the last time that Newcastle was very successful. We were discussing Pong's origin eligibility. Last time Newcastle were very successful, we had a Queenslander at the back. We had Robbie O in the number 1.
Robbie O. I was like, are you going to talk about Darius again? Jesus. No, but
I forgot about that. Actually, yeah. Then we had a Queenslander at the back and we went to hell. Oh, okay. Well, that's dismissed my argument very quickly. Thank you, Nagy.
No, I know what you mean though. A dynamic fullback that that's can score tries, can be engaged in the line, setting them up. He's just impressed me. He's impressed me a lot. And as soon as they take the focus off the team and start focusing on him, because they will now, everyone like any coach, any performance manager, anything like that is going to look at them and go, Kalen Ponga, we need to shut him down. And that's exactly what we want because that's taking the whole emphasis off the whole team. They're suddenly, you know what I mean? Like they're suddenly,
and then they start focusing on the Pong, and then you have Pierce tearing them apart. You have Lamb tearing them apart. Yeah. Fitzgibbon gets more ball. Aguera gets more ball. It's nice to finally have strike weapons everywhere so that when they do focus on the Pong, it's just, give it to someone else.
I'm glad you brought up Lockie Fitz because he's also my hats off for this week. I think just some stats on Lockie Fitz. 116 metres he ran. He scored that remarkable try from out. 9 tackle busts, 2 line breaks, and what he was doing really well was targeting Nicarima. Classic big man on little man.
Nicarima is a little man, a tiny man.
4'6", I think. He might be in here now, actually. No, he's get out of the table.
I see one moment Fitzgibbon did move to tackle him, and he just went over the top of him.
He missed him entirely. Yeah. But Lockie Fitz, an incredible try rate now. He's 11 from these last 15 games.
Isn't it amazing? He's becoming, the modern day Beaver. Yeah, which is brilliant.
It's everyone was talking about. He's running like Steve Simpson lines, and like he's huge. Sort of, he's probably the most underrated player in currently underrated forward,
without a shadow of a doubt.
He doesn't seem to be brought up in any of these conversations around a representative football, but stats wise he should be. He's probably still got an error in his game, but at the same time he seems to be getting better. And he's come right through the Knights system, obviously. South Junior. Very glad we re-signed him last season for another 2 years.
Absolutely wonderful re-signing.
If they can keep it up, but what is impressing me that he's getting these tries and making these line breaks. He used to do it off Lamb last year, and then he was doing it off Kalen. He seems to be still finding the line off different people. That's a really good hole runner. He's a combination with Kalen Ponga at the moment. That goose step into. He's just, I'll tell you
Isn't it gorgeous? Isn't it just absolutely gorgeous? Like I said to Crowe, we're going to score every single time. Every game. Every time Kalen Ponga goes to the line and goose steps, we're going to score. And we're showing it. Look, we're showing it. Did you have any hats back on Nag?
Now, I think we all had the same thought. Now, he tried to make up for it. And he had a pretty good, he made some very good try-saving, good defensive. Look, it's SKD. Skid Mark Steve.
It was back to that classic SKD game. Couple of howlers.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a hats back on, but slightly perched atop the head, not completely back on.
Maybe like a beret.
Kind of on the side, off to the edge a bit. Not completely back on, because yes, he did have those 2 howlers, dropping the bomb and then not recovering the ball to let Brisbane go close to the line. Then what he was doing off that kickoff, I'm not sure. I think it was one of the movements from Swan Lake.
Just a bit. It's up in the air.
It's sort of formed a Y. It's starting the YMCA.
Like the Shawshank Redemption, like in the rain when he comes out of the pipe. Maybe that was his redemption moment.
Was his redemption moment.
He's been forgiven.
He has been forgiven. Because, besides the howlers, he did have a very good game.
Yeah.
He was a second biggest meter eater. He was doing really good work out of our own end. He pulled off an absolutely brilliant try-saving tackle one-on-one with Bird. That intercept stopped a try as well. Then the offload inside. Yeah. He had his howlers, but in classic SKD form, he put in a very, very solid game around them, so he's forgiven.
Rocks and or diamonds.
Either or.
That's
you don't know.
That's all we're going to get.
But diamonds are rocks.
But the not shiny ones.
What about some rocks are shiny?
Some rocks are shiny. All right, we might have to come up with a different sort of way to analyse this game, but it's either really, really good or quite bad.
See, now that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have a quick short break and we'll be right back with the second half of the Joust.
It's good.
Welcome back to the second half of the Joust. Now, Liam, we're back next week. Not us, but the game. The game's going to be played against...
We never left.
We're always here. Scheming, planning, lying. No, now drinking. But on Friday night. Now, we've had such a pleasure of going around to these sort of Sunday and Saturday things, but really our true home, as far as the NRL is concerned, is this 6 o'clock on Friday game.
The graveyard shift.
And that's, we call it the graveyard shift, obviously because it's so hard to get to if you're, doing any job that finished at 5 o'clock in any sort of metropolitan area. So, especially Melbourne, which no one goes to their games anyway. So we're down there in Melbourne and 6 p.m. on Friday. And team news, Liam, I think we got a few of the Melbourne players out.
We do. Will Chambers is up in the second week of his suspension for a chokehold on Paul Gallen. Gallen tapped out, actually, funnily enough. And Dale Finucane, who's been very good for them over the last 2 seasons at lock, he's out for a month with a fractured finger.
Isn't that what they used to... You remember that game, Street Fighter? It was Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Finucane.
Yeah.
With the flames?
Yeah, no, that was...
it's one of the two.
It was Street Fighter. Ken and Ryu had a Hadouken. But sounds like Finucane. Yeah, so they're both out. However, some bad news on the Knights front as well. Mitch Barnett has entered an early guilty plea for a dangerous throw on Tavita Pangai Jr., which I missed. I didn't actually see it. Must have been the match review committee picked it up.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it either. I'm still a little bit underwhelmed with Barney's. Obviously, he went off for a HIA. Again, yeah, which is a bit worrying. But he came back on, which is reassuring. But I don't know, Barney I think, as we mentioned last week, just maybe not quite there where he wants to be. I think he'll probably find a bit of form in the middle of the season, get his match fitness up a little bit. But
I do think he improved against the Broncos, though.
Yeah, no,
he definitely. His game was a vast improvement on the first few weeks back from concussion. But yeah, I think maybe he still needs a bit of time to get his head right, which is important.
Yeah,
it's important to have the noggin working.
It's probably not a bad thing that he's missing a week after a second HIA in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
yes.
so it's not a terrible thing for him to be having a bit of a breather, I think, and maybe finding himself again, as we all need to do.
We do from time to time. But yeah, he'll only miss 1 week with the early guilty plea. But look, the Storm in Melbourne it's a funny one for the Knights, even in our at our lowest ebb, at our worst of times. We've always kind of, except for last year, of course, where we got beaten 40-12 and 44-12.
Yep.
Besides that, we've always come really close against the Storm. In 2016, we lost by 4 points down there, but led for most of the game, and then we lost by 4 points at home. We beat them once in 2015, down there at Amy Park. Beat them with that beautiful Kurt Gidley sideline conversion 2014 at home.
Magical stuff.
I feel like we're a bit of a bogey team for the Storm.
I still think, I think considering where they've been finishing on the table all those years and where we've been finishing on the table, the fact that it's still a contest was it's positive. And like I said before, when you come into these games, when you think of the last time you played them, you think, oh, that's right, nearly lost that. It's hopefully that we take some of that in, and you're going with the confidence that we could win it. We've got them at a good time again, just like we had Brisbane after they got beaten by the Titans. The Storm went down to the Tigers again.
For the second time in one season.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever been beaten. What was it? They've never been beaten by the same team twice in 1 year.
Yeah, that was the stat, wasn't it? It was like 96 games or something like that.
Something like that.
Something stupid like that. What does David Middleton do with his life?
Lives the dream. I'd love his job. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
but yeah, look, I think the Tigers really laid the blueprint for how to beat the Storm. You just defend. You stifle them out of the game.
Yeah.
And I think with the improved defence against Brisbane, the Knights they're in this with a good chance. We're paying $3.25. I mean, no one's favouring us, but it could cause a bit of an upset down there, I think.
I think we're in with a chance here, especially coming off the loss. The pressure's on them. I think they're out of the 8 at the moment.
Out of the 8 for the first time in 96 months.
That was what I was. That was the stat. Yeah. So it's good to see them. The pressure's on them to win. It's at home. We're coming down. Even though we're in a bit of form, it's patchy form. But if we can make it work against them, that's suddenly we're 4 from 6.
When we are sans pressure, we are without pressure.
We are without pressure. I don't think no one's expecting us to win down there, but hopefully we come up with the.
Where do we beat the Storm?
I think
Nagy.
Where's the game won? Look, I think strength-wise, obviously, the players have been playing well. Mitchell Pearce, Ponga. Hopefully, I think especially in that game, Brock Lamb started to inject himself at more key times. I think where he was playing really well last year, we started finding some form, scoring some tries himself. Was just being there, backing up, and it happened. With that Rossi tap back, and then the inside pass, the flick pass back to Chris Hinton. I like that. So rather than those key pressure moments, fifth tackle, look to Brock Lamb, I prefer leave that up to Pearce and let us play some ad-lib football around Brock Lamb. So getting the players there, and what the Storm doesn't like, they play really well against structured teams. They don't play very well against ad-lib teams. So if we can force the ticket. No, force the ticket as well.
Force the ticket
into their hands.
Put it upon them.
Yeah, and it's
purchase this now.
Yeah,
take my money.
Make them play, because I feel like if we can get some points on them early, I still think we'll get them first half, and they might come back second half. That's just what they've always done to us. So, what about you? What do you reckon we can win it?
Look, I think we can win it through our edge running. Their halves have kind of been found out a bit as maybe a bit of a step back from Cooper Cronk, which no one's surprised by.
Yeah.
But everyone's surprised by it. Funnily enough, they take Brodie Croft, who's 20 years old and has played 7 NRL games, and have expected him to immediately be Cooper Cronk. It was never going to happen. So I think if we run, I don't know which side he defends on, but running those edge plays at him, having your Barnetts, your Fitzgibbons, same with what we did with Nicarima. Isolate him.
Won't be there. But
like him.
Like him. Your Gueras, your Lockie Fitz. Yeah, those big rack rows.
Big bodies, isolate him, send Sione at him as well, another big body. Really isolate the fringes there. And I think we need to keep the back three out of play as well. Now,
Josh Adokar,
Suliasi, Billy Slater, they're just electrifying. Some of the best kick returners in the game. So I think plug those corners, find touch, stifle them out of the game. It needs to be unstructured ad-lib, but stifling.
But pressure. Lots of pressure.
Lots of pressure.
Make them win it rather than us lose it.
Yes. I know exactly what you mean, Nagy.
Hopefully, if the players that have been playing well are still playing well, I think we'll have a good, we'll match up well against them. Well.
Look, if anything, even if we lose, I'm sure it'll be a great performance.
That's what, the key being, I want to be competing with these top sides. We didn't see it against the Roosters, and we didn't see it against that other team that we played and we lost.
Those guys.
Those guys. No, we missed out a few weeks there, but I think if we can get back on track and start playing some confident footy, I think we can do well. And again, no one's expecting us to do so. No, but Liam,
who was the other team we lost against?
No, we'll go over this later.
I can't remember.
We'll put it in post.
Yes, we'll put it in post.
But I was thinking when we brought up Cooper Cronk, and he was obviously playing quite well at the Roosters now. Good matchup with Luke Keary. But I still think, just personally, and now this might be bias coming from me because, what do you know, I'm a bit of a biased guy when it comes to the old red and blue. But
he's got one red testicle and one blue testicle.
Yeah, but they're both medically mysteries. They don't understand.
I've been begging him to see a doctor, but he just refuses.
Every time you see my testicles, which is often now. But I think we're getting better money for value for money.
Yes.
for Adam Mitchell Pearce. Obviously we offered Cronk $1 squillion, but if you remember, the deal that was talked about was sort of like he would be there in sort of a coaching role, and he would only be down in Newcastle 3 days a week, and do you remember this?
I do. I remember it well because he'd be living in Sydney with beautiful Tara, traveling up. I just don't think I don't think it would have been a good fit. I think it would have very much been, a Wayno situation.
That's what it reminded me of.
The superstar coming in, but he's only there a few times a week. He's coming in on the private jet. He's not around the club all the time. And at the end of the day as well, you're only getting 2 years out of Cooper Cronk. Doesn't matter who you are, who you think you are, whatever. Cooper Cronk's there for 2 years, then he's retiring. That's it. He's not going to stay another year. With Pearce, we have a long-term franchise halfback. We're not just papering over a crack.
Yeah.
We are getting into the bottom of the crack. How do you fix a crack in the road?
Resin? No.
Asphalt?
Asphalt.
We're getting into the bottom of the crack. We're putting glue in there.
Like the O'Brien's ad.
The O'Brien's ad, yeah.
Do you remember when he's like, if you've got a crack in your windscreen, he's like, and I'll fix it with the resin, and he puts the resin up and he injects it, and you see it go, look.
That's it. Instead of putting paper over the crack, we're putting resin in the crack so that it doesn't reopen.
Mitchell Pearce is our resin.
He's our resin.
But it was a few players that we sort of made a play for towards the end of the last season, and coming in, and I'm looking at them now, the clubs that they did go with, and I'm pretty happy that we didn't sign them. There's just a couple of them. We went after a lot of players, but a few of them. Matt Scott, we talked about earlier, how we thought maybe he isn't the player that that he was pre blowing his knee out. Like he may be showing a bit of his age. And I think for a heavily discounted Matt Scott in Jacob Lilymoon was probably a good fit, because I don't think we would be getting much, even though Jacob's been playing unders, but I just still think that Matt Scott just would have been that big body. What are your thoughts?
Agreed. I don't think Matt Scott, seeing how he's playing this season, I don't think he offers too much more than what Lilyman's bringing us and what Lilyman can bring us, as he showed against Brisbane. He's back on the up. He's back doing what he's very good at. But obviously he's also come at a far reduced price than Matt Scott would have been. He doesn't have that risk of doing his ACL again. I think Lilyman proved to be a far better buy than what Matt Scott may have been.
Yeah. I think especially on the 1 year contract too, it's just safer. It plays into our hands a bit more. Matt Scott would have come here probably on a 3 year contract. Would have been pricey. Blows his knee out again. That's almost retirement talk. Another player that we played, two players that we played against in the Broncos. One of them was Jack Bird, and you're going to say something, Liam?
Well, I was going to say it was, and Nagy mentioned this early No, you didn't. But he was going to mention it. We forgot that Jack Bird was playing until that SKD tackle on him, the try save.
It had to be mentioned. Like, I watched the game live, and it was at the stadium, and I couldn't. Like, at no point did I feel like, oh, that's the guy we got to worry about or anything like that. He just played this quiet sort of. I don't know. He doesn't like everyone's saying that he looks fat because he does. He looks
looks fat because he is.
He is fat. And he doesn't look threatening. Like you take like the Sharks Jack Bird. That was very damaging. Everyone's like talking, he could play fullback, he could play 5'8", but at the performance that he just did last night, and you can say he's come back from shoulder injury, he's affecting his confidence, but he doesn't look like any of the sort of marquee money that you'd pay for him that he's worth.
Which does worry me for Origin, because when he has played Origin, he has given his all in that blue jersey. He's just been brilliant. So while I'm glad that we didn't sign him because he's playing like nothing.
Yeah.
I do hope he has a renaissance, rebounds, and it just does his magic in the blue jersey.
Well, I agree, because we don't play Broncos again, so because we only play them once.
Also that.
So I'm quite happy for him to pick his form up now and play well for Origin. But the other player, Liam, that we played against too was Matt Lodge, because if you remember, we offered him more money.
Mr. Popular.
Yeah, isn't he ever? The crowd loves him, gets a lot of attention. And
New Yorkers love him.
The hookers?
No, New Yorkers.
Oh, the New Yorkers, yeah. But the hookers probably like him as well.
No, they'd beat them to within an inch of their life. They would hate him. They despise him.
But Liam, there was obviously every time he got the ball, I've sort of really enjoyed this. At the start of the season, round 1, you could hear the boos, and now we've just had round 5. You can still hear the boos every time he gets the ball.
That's it. I like it. The NRL fans are really keeping this one up. They're really sticking by this. I like it.
It's got to affect, like, I'm sure like game 1, game 2, they would have been like, oh, don't worry, mate. They'll forget about it. And you just play some good footy, and then everything's forgiven. But he's still playing good footy, but everyone's still booing him.
It's hilarious.
And I'm very glad that it's not us. Like if we because I would have had to think to myself, like, oh, he's probably going to play well. He's probably going to be good for the team. Do we want this? Like, and then I sort of been, boo. Like, in my mind it would have been booing. But I wouldn't have maybe vocalized it. But it's good to see that we didn't sign him, because I wouldn't want that kind of negative attention on the team. I think a team that's built on culture and growing and all about the town, if you only had like a very small section of the town that's actually with you, it's hard. But mind you, Brownie's always still talking quite favourably of him. Which worries me slightly that we're going to make a play for him again. Where maybe like after Jacob, if we don't sign Jacob Lillman. Anyway, whatever the case might be, I'm glad that we don't have him in the team, because I think we're doing well without him.
Yes, we are. There's a few that we missed who have been performing well. Adam Blair to the Warriors. He's been very good over there, but I feel like that's because of the Warriors. If he came to Newcastle, it's a very different culture. It's a different setup. The rebuilds are going in 2 different directions. I don't know that he would have had the same impact. I think going to the Warriors has really kind of rejuvenated him. Yeah,
and also I know we were talking about it earlier, like making the play for Pangai Jr. and he didn't play. He didn't have a phenomenal game for Brisbane against us. If anything, we got one over on him, which I thought was nice. Also, another player that I completely forgot that was playing until I was reading the stats, Corbin Sims. Can you remember him playing?
Yes.
Okay,
I remember being unimpressed.
Yeah, unimpressed. Yeah. Unremarkable game. You think of a bloke that walked out in a club. He's at at arguably a more successful club over the time that he's not been there. It was be like, I'm really gonna show these Newcastle fans something, but he just showed us nothing.
Which is good, especially after Tarek getting one over us the previous week. It's good that we're back even with the Sims family.
Yeah, and he's back on the bench too, which is good, because he would have been starting in Newcastle if he had stayed. So it's good to see him.
Like last season, he started, took the first hit up off the kickoff, and got creamed.
Okay. Oh, was that off the Josh King hit?
Yes, the Josh King hit.
Yeah. No, yes. So it's good to see him regressing in his career, because he walked out on us. But Liam, do you have the time?
Yes, Nagy. I think it's time for the news.
Now, Liam, there was a very important thing that happened through the week, and obviously all media outlets are talking about it. But our very own coach, Nathan Brown, decided to fire one back off the bow side. Bow side? No, you know.
Fired one over the bow. Fired one across the bow.
Across the bow.
Across the bow.
I don't know, maritime sort of talk.
Bow's the front.
I thought the bow was the side.
No, that's the port and the starboard.
Okay.
Got the bow at the front, the stern at the back.
He fired one
Ships.
back.
That's our next podcast.
Just called Ships. But
we could do a crossover of maritime construction and Newcastle Knights. Call it Ships in the Nights.
Hey. probably no one would listen. But yeah, obviously he made a remark about the former coach Wayne Bennett, something along the lines of thinking with his little head referring to his penis rather than his big head referring to his noggin. So
well explained, Nagy.
Well, and everyone's talking
Very
about
well
it.
broken down.
They're saying now that no, he didn't mean that. He meant short term, long term. I was like, if you meant short term, long term, you would have said short term, long term. It was definitely a little sharp jab back at, and I love it even the way he walked into it. Like he goes, yeah, the old fox, sort of like oh, he's getting past it. He's yabbering on. So it was nice to.
It was like he's just talking about that old uncle who's really racist, but you just give him a break. It's like, well, it's Uncle Wayne.
Yeah, he gets a bit pissed sometimes and carries on about immigrants and things like that. Yeah.
But we all know he's impotent. So. At the end of it, you're just like, yeah, it's an insult, but it's him. So
it's the medication he's on. And now I have to ask now, because people said like it was it shouldn't have been done. It went too far. That was often mentioned. What do you think, Liam? Do you think this is?
I think it was great. Good bit of banter. Because Wayne came out and said the Brownies unbuilt it after he left it in. I think the great situation.
Yeah.
Which
he said it wasn't that bad. Yeah, but I think it was interesting. Like, I think the reason I liked it, partly because it was Brownie and I like what Brownie says, but I think it was good to be in a position that we can actually get our back up a little bit, because if we had lost that game and that question was asked, Brownie couldn't obviously show that. But because we'd won and we'd actually got one over on him, we're in that position to be like, oh, well, you unbuilt it, I'm rebuilding it, my team's better than yours. No.
And it doesn't come across as sour grapes.
Yeah, that's right. Like, it's not like if Ricky Stewart, like he said something along those lines, it's sort of like, oh, come on, Ricky, get your team in order first, and then you can start talking about others. But
Nathan has his team in order.
Well, it looks to be from that game result anyway. So in the context of just that game, like whatever happens to the rest of the season happens. And he said like the Broncos are a good side, blah, 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 but it was like a personal attack. But all at the same time, Wayne does this a lot. Now, Wayne, not with the remarries another woman in a different town. He doesn't do that much. I think he's only done that once.
That we know about.
But what he's done is when his team, whether he did this at the Knights as well, when his team's under pressure, he makes these little comments because it takes all the focus. Every time there's you have this much of the paper talking about each game, and then that takes the headline that Wayne Bennett says this. He's always been to navigate the media very well.
He deflects the attention away from the team better than most. Yeah. Better than most.
And he did it for us. He did it for us when in 2013 when we had the qualifying final against the Roosters. Now, if you remember, he left at the end of 2014. But at the end of 2013, there was a whole Tinkler was having some dramas, the start of his dramas. And he said he started mentioning the contract. He's saying like, oh, well, if I'm still around here next season and stuff like that. And suddenly that's all they could talk about until after the game. And then after the game, he's like, no, I'm staying. So it's like, so it was just, take the focus off a young side so they can just play the game that was important to them.
Although that was an old side. Wayne.
No, we had some young players.
Oh, we did too.
Like Gags was only 14 years old.
He's wily, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wily old Wayne.
Wily old Wayne.
But
I'm happy it happened, and he said like, oh, he's not going to get punished for it. Like, I don't obviously personal attacks and things like that could be kept out of it, but also it happened. It's truth. It's not conjecture. It's not like, oh, did it really happen? It's like, no,
it's fairly well documented.
It's fairly well, except you didn't actually know much.
I think I missed that whole thing. I don't really remember it happening. I was drinking a lot at the time.
That's true.
It was a rough time.
No, but Liam, also something happened with a young Canberra player.
Yes. Now Jack Fighton, as people on the internet are calling him, has been charged. He faces 3 charges of reckless or intentionally inflicting actual bodily harm.
3.
He faces 4 charges of common assault.
4. And
rounds it all out with 1 charge of urinating in public.
Hey, just the one. I like to think that when he beat these 4 people or assaulted them, that he was urinating on them as well.
Because the final nail in the coffin.
Because, there's nothing worse than getting the shit kicked out of you, but getting the shit kicked out of you and then pissed on is probably a step worse. But you were saying that that he was urinating in public. And
well, the story that as I've read it, and again the details they've been murky coming out, but the story as I read it, so he was urinating in an alleyway outside a Canberra nightclub after his birthday. These 4 gents, I believe, started heckling him or having some words with him, and he beat the shit out of them, all of them.
It's like it's good that it doesn't sound like he's going to be playing the rest of the year if he's got 3 counts of assault to fight, but it's definitely going to be a tough one to come back from.
And then the Broncos will sign him.
And then that's where they go.
Yeah,
that's all.
But other good news: Harold Matthews and SG Ball teams have finished 4th and 3rd respectively
Not very good.
at the end of their regular season. Both will be going through to round 1 of the semi-finals, and both will be playing against Penrith. Actually, funnily enough, Penrith were the minor premiers in SG Ball, and I think finished 2nd.
Penrith always do well in the juniors.
Yeah,
So
Gus has done a great job rebuilding over there. But look,
5, 6, 7 year 8 plan.
what's next, Snaggy?
Next, it might be time to open that sack of yours, Liam.
Hey, wonderful. Good questions again this week, Jousters. A bit more on the light-hearted side. I think after a win, everyone feels buoyant, and let's just talk about some fun stuff. Now, Brent Taylor, cheers to the question, Brent. Brent asks, if you played for the Knights and you got to pick your own sponsor, who would it be?
Well, it very well could be that fine establishment there on Bull Street, at the corner of Bull and Union, the Commonwealth Hotel.
The great pub.
It's
Wonderful venue.
It's a fantastic venue, and that's where I'll have that, stewed across me and on my back, and over the shoulder as well. I'd have it everywhere because I think that'll be my personal sponsor.
Yeah,
Because it's just such a lovely venue to be at.
Absolutely. I'd put them front and centre on the front of the jersey, but then I think maybe as a sleeve sponsor, Domino's. Italian restaurant.
Okay, yeah.
It's very fine chain. Wonderful pizzas.
If I was thinking maybe like Arnott's might be another one for you, possibly.
Shapes, yeah.
Arnott's
But
Shapes.
just Shapes. Maybe, no, Arnott's, Shapes, and Monte Carlos.
Well, that's probably the best of the biscuits, isn't it? Yeah.
I was thinking you could maybe leave the Knights, sign for Canberra, and be sponsored by Milk.
Just milk.
Just Milk.
Just
I love that it was always, that was their sponsor, just Milk. The drink itself, not a company who sells it, just the drink itself.
Just cow's milk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it
Well,
wasn't
never
cows.
specified cow's milk.
Could've
Just
been
milk.
Could have been human breast.
Could have been. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't know any better.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how that'd go on the cereal. Sorry. Levon Rush. Now, I actually saw Levon after the game. It was bloody good to see you, Levi. How come Jacob Lillyman still doesn't know the words to the team song, Nagy?
Well, yeah. See, Jacob Lillyman, it seems like one of those players. He's obviously been playing the game, took a couple of head knocks for many years, and be surprised if he can find his way home each night. That's why they have the team bus, to make sure Jacob gets home.
That's why they have the team bus. Okay.
But yeah, there was some footage that came up of the team song, and he sort of looked like he was still humming through it. But
however, it is good to see that he seems to be the only one who needs the sheet now. Whereas earlier in the season, last year, there was they were going to Officeworks and printing out hundreds of them for the team, which they never used. But still, they were sitting there away in a cupboard somewhere, waiting to be cracked open. So it's good that for the purposes of not wasting paper.
Yeah.
That Lillyman, so maybe he's just an environmentalist.
He could
doesn't want the paper to go to waste.
He very well could be.
Stephen Clark then rebutted with, to be fair, Mr. Lillyman does strike him as the kind of bloke who doesn't know the words to his own name.
Oh, hello, Stephen. Jesus.
Stephen.
Straight back with the...
He's taken one out of the Brownie playbook.
Jesus, I think...
That was good, though. I like that. Steve Slackster. Now, coming back to the news, when will Wayne and Brownie don the gloves? And how much will tickets be going for, Nagy?
To fight?
To fight.
I think take the gloves off, fight him in the car park.
Bare-knuckled.
Yeah.
King Street car park, 3 a.m.
I've seen Wayne. Wayne's a bit of an athlete, though, so I don't know.
He's an athlete, but I feel like Brownie's the kind of guy who'd stash a trolley pole down his pants.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't use it until he needed it. It's not like he'd grab it out and start beating him up. But if he was getting, a bit worked over by Wayne, just crack out the trolley pole.
Crack out the trolley pole.
Yeah. And it's right next to Marketown, so he can just run in, nick one real quick.
Just pop them out?
Just pop them out.
That's very good.
It's a great weapon.
Are they perp specs?
Well, no, because the thing is, you take the plastic off the outside. The inside is like a strong metal rod.
Yeah.
So you don't want the plastic exterior. So you take it out, take out the plastic,
and then
plastic off, and then you've got your metal pole
to beat someone with.
No,
very good.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Is that the sack?
That's the sack. That's all done.
Thanks very much for those questions.
We're closing it with the trolley pole again.
Yeah, no, closing it all. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Liam.
Pleasure.
If you like the Joust and you want to watch it, we can find us on Facebook. You can find us also now on YouTube, I believe. So we've expanded the pipes. We've installed new pipes to include YouTube.
It's a wonderful website.
Yeah. That's YouTube. And as well as...
Thank you for clarifying.
Twitter and the rest. Instagram.
Yep, we got that.
Yeah. If you like us, you just come
Google.
Google.
We're on Google.
You can find us on Google. Yeah, true. You can find us at all.
You can probably Alta Vista search for us.
Yeah, that's also. But yeah, we'll be back next week, and we have a very, very special guest joining us next week. I'm very, very excited. But you'll find out a little bit more about that later on. Thank you for joining me so much, Liam, and we'll guess I'll see you next week. Oh, you want some water?
Yeah.
I've been drinking out of it, though.
Thank you.